Right, we're going to make a start then. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Procurement Pulse. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. Cameras and microphones are disabled, and this webinar is being recorded, and your names may be visible. We will be editing the recording after the event to be able to share with those that are interested. Just a little disclaimer. So on with the show. My name is Richard, and I'm part of the direct channel team here at KCS Procurement Services. Today, we have two experts from Gamma who are one of our awarded suppliers on our communication solutions framework. So a big welcome to Sam and to Sara, our special guests on the Procurement Pulse webinar today. So what's on the agenda today? Over to the legend himself, MJ.
Thank you very much, Rich, and welcome to everyone joining us today. Really appreciate your time. My name's MJ. I'm also part of the direct channel team. Today, we'll be focusing on the communication solutions and associated telephony services framework. Quite a mouthful. We'll just be doing a little bit of an intro as to what that framework is and where we can help support the public sector in relation to that. And as Richard's alluded to, we're really excited to have Sam and Sara and do a presentation on the PTSN switch off. So we're eager to hear what they have to say. Thank you for those who have submitted some questions directly to us already. We'll try and get those across to Sam and Sara, and time permitting, we'll get as many of those as answered as possible. And if we don't get a chance to get round to, we'll respond to via email. We'll also have exciting news about next month's show, which Richard will be telling us more about very soon. So on the screen, you'll be able to see a collection of the different partners, suppliers that we have on this particular framework, well-established organizations who will be able to support anything that this framework covers. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen. And as you're probably used to by now, I'm going to be showing you our catalog, all neat and tidy, very easy to find the information. We've just shown there, you've got a list of all the different partners, suppliers that we have on there. It's quite handy. You can click on the individual boxes and go into the website of the suppliers to get more information from them directly. As per usual, you've got the two routes to market, further competition, which we all know about, and direct award, which is becoming more and more popular. This framework's live for a total of 4 years, and that expires in August 2026. But you can see there listed below all of the different ways that we can support, some of the more popular being broadband, IP, telephony, video, audio conferencing, alarms, and call points. So it's not going to go into much more detail than that, just for the time being, because Sam and Sara will be doing a big intro into the communications aspect. As you know, communications is more and more essential nowadays. And if you're looking to have a contact center in place to help the people in your local area know about what services you offer, you need a good telephone system in. If you're going to be doing a communication campaign, LinkedIn, you need a good solid broadband service. So without further ado, I'm going to hand back over to Rich, and he will do a big intro for Sam and Sara.
I would do a drum roll, but I've got no drums. But thank you for that, MJ. And now for the presentation for our special guest, Gamma. This is to give you some information of what you need to get ready for the public telephone network switch off. So over to you, Sam.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Richard and MJ, for the intro there. And we're really pleased to be able to present a couple of slides on the PTSN switch off in association with the communication services framework that these guys run. We're a proud member of it. So obviously we're calling it Legacy to Liftoff, but and it's quite a dry topic, as you'll see, but I'll try and make it as snappy as possible because it is absolutely crucial to anyone who has current calls and lines and uses calls and lines in their current organisation. Whether you're a school with a couple of ISDN2s or PSTN, normal telephone lines connected to a telephone system, or whether you're a larger local government authority, as an example, with lots of alarm lines and lift lines. this will impact all of you. And so really important that we get the message across here. My name's Sam. I'm Public Sector Director at Gamma, and I'm joined by Sara, Sheikh, who is Head of Product Management, Wholesale Line Rental or PSTN Services being one of the products that she manages here at Gamma. Next slide, please, Richard. Okay, so I think it's really important that although some of you on the call will likely know what the PSTN switch off is and what it's all about, we start at the basics here. This is essentially that the PSTN has been in operation for decades and decades, and it's run by an organisation called Openreach, who used to be owned by the government, but are obviously part of the BT group now. And they've historically run a very large copper-based network all around the UK, and they're really the final last mile provider of telecom services and access in the UK for copper-based services. And what they've decided to do, because for a number of reasons, one of those being that the internet protocol and IP has become so prevalent in the UK, and digital services become so prevalent, is that they're turning off this copper network. And when I say turning off, that they're actually turning it off, and that's you'll see some timelines for that in a second. But of course, a lot of people, a lot of organizations, both suppliers and users of the service, have got things that really rely on this copper network to work, essentially. And so we really wanted to have this presentation to hammer home the message that if you do use these services, these copper-based services, then you really need to have a look at planning how you're going to exit those services in the timelines that I'm going to describe in a minute. One of the reasons BT are doing that as well is obviously it's quite costly to maintain copper in the ground and copper networks, and so from a business decision from their perspective, it makes sense as well. Next slide, please, Richard. Okay, so in terms of timelines, we've looked at it. Thank you very much, Google, for providing a nice, easy backward number of days on your service. But we are now 47 days away to the 5th of September. And essentially, from that point, you are no longer going to be able to order new telephony lines or ISDN lines or anything connected to the Openreach copper network. The other thing is you're also not going to be able to switch between providers to get the best possible economics and commercials, but from the 5th of September as well. So all of that is stopping both new lines and the ability to procure new lines, as I said, like ISDN2s, etc., but also to switch providers as well. So a really important date to be aware of. It's only 47 days away, and obviously we've got the holiday period in between. The actual date for the BT Openreach turning off the copper network is the 1st of December 2025. And although that sounds like quite a long time away, obviously depending on how complex the requirements that you have or the systems that you have in place or the network that you have in place at the moment, that can be quite a short period of time when you're looking at planning from scratch and understanding what you need to do to migrate those services away. The date is unlikely to change. It is a date that Openreach have been broadcasting since 2017, I believe, and essentially what will happen on that day is that all of the associated services for the associated to the BT Openreach copper network will cease, essentially. So it really is in the best interests of every organisation across the UK. Everyone's impacted to understand what their plan is for it. Next slide, please, Richard. Okay. There are 10 million lines still to be migrated. Of course, some of you will be absolutely in a good place. You'll have already done the migration, whether you've heard about it and planned for it. But there are still 10 million lines out there. And I guess my message to you all really simply is: would you rather be at the front of the line and planning a migration as right now and having a bit of time to do it, those 800 odd days that we looked at, or at the back of the line when invariably there's going to be a crush of orders and people and only a set resource to manage the migrations at the Openreach side of things. So it's a really important milestone, this, and we at Gamma are trying to get the message out there on behalf of all suppliers. The reason I don't know, I don't think it's been particularly well broadcast, is if I draw a comparison, something like the digital television switchover, which we did a number of years ago, that was a government-run initiative, and so there were national campaigns, and everyone knew about it. Whereas this is very much driven by the industry, by Openreach needing to switch off that copper network, and so we're unlikely to see the national television campaigns and messaging from government, unless of course it gets really bad potentially. But I wouldn't want to be in that position, and neither should you. So my message is, would you rather be at the front of the line or the back of the line with this? But have a look at what you've got, and Sara will take you through what we need to do. Next slide, Richard.
Thank you, Sam. And thank you, Procurement Plus, for having us on here. It's great to be here and talk to you about this. 10 million lines. That is a big number. And for someone who has been around the industry for some time, I may not look like it, but I have. This may be one of the biggest changes that we've gone through as an industry. And Sam is absolutely right. You do not want to be at the back of that queue. If migrations continue at their current pace, last half of 2025 will be chaotic. And you don't want to get lost in that chaos, because it is a little bit more complex than just swapping out your phone lines and broadband. Don't get me wrong, 90% of those 10 million lines will just be that, your broadband lines and your phone lines. But dotted around in there are all these weird and wonderful use cases that old PSTN network used to work and function, make work and make function. This may be essential to you and how you work. It could be lift lines, it could be alarm lines, to something that could actually make the difference between life and death, like telecare. You definitely don't want these services to be the ones that get lost in that chaos. My trusty assistant could move me along to the next slide. Thank you very much. I think you can just make the build go. Yeah, there we go. As then that old PSTN network disappears, it will also facilitate a technology shift from old to next gen technology like FTTP, fiber Ethernet, or 5G. This is something what we need to happen. Think about how many applications you use on a day-to-day basis. Personally, and then at work, you may have the best, most well-developed application that is out there, but it's completely useless if your broadband is down or doesn't have the speed you need for these applications. Speaking for myself, and I think Sam can attest to this, I may be the world's most impatient person. That refresh icon is like the bane of my existence. And the strange thing is, UK is the world leader in so many advanced, state-of-the-art areas and technologies, but for some reason, in this particular area, we are decades behind everyone else, and it enables everything from big data to AI. So as painful as this may be, it really couldn't happen soon enough, in my opinion. We move to the next slide, please. As I mentioned, 90% of this change will be around your voice and data services. Where previously you've used a copper-based analog service, you will need to move to a voice over IP. This might be something like Teams or a UCaaS application that has all of the features and functionality of your old service, plus a whole lot more, or something as simple as a single line replacement solution. There's so much choice out there, honestly, and some providers who have really thought through that migration journey. On the data front, if you are using copper-based legacy technology, you will need to move to a fiber-based product or a transition product like CGM. And by the way, and I should definitely lead with this next time, in most cases, you will be saving money, because Openreach, who Sam mentioned earlier, have been slowly but surely cranking up the prices of these services over time. So there's definitely financial benefit in there for you. Next and last slide from me. Just want to leave you with this one thing. Please don't wait until 2025. Now is the time, it honestly is, to review your estate, talk to your supplier or suppliers, create a plan and just get started. And with that, I would like to thank you for your time. And I think we're going to go to questions, Rich. Am I correct?
Yes, that is it. Thank you so much, Sam and Sara. That was a really great presentation, and it's definitely helped me have a better understanding of what we all need to do to get ready. And hopefully all of our listeners and viewers have found this useful. Now, we have got some questions that have come through to us in preparation of this. So we've got some to ask you now. So here we go. First one, do I need to worry about my home phone line and broadband? Is it something I need to worry about?
Oh, short answer, yes. Absolutely. I know, I mean, there's some people out there, my nan especially, who really wants to hold on to her old phone. So she will need to move, and she doesn't really want to change her handset. So, you know, we have to think about how that shift for her happens, what solution is right for her. But your broadband lines will definitely have to move. Maybe mobile is the right solution for you. So whether it's work or home, I'm afraid this is happening.
So it does affect us all then, not just the public sector.
Yep.
That's the crux of it, isn't it?
Yeah, we're not. It's not selective at all. This is the large copper network. Absolutely, Rich. Switching off and just before the next question. Sorry to be brutal about it, but I think we were getting to the stage where we all need to be as a supplier base and as a nation. So we're trying to get the message out there. Yeah,
perfect. Hence why we're having this webinar. To be fair, because we're learning about what we've got to do as an organisation as well. So it is really interesting and helpful. Will there be, now this is a question that I was will there be a substantial increase in cost? So if I left it to last minute, will it suddenly cost me more as an organisation to transfer onto this sort of new network and stuff? So the longer I leave it, is it going to get more expensive?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it earlier. You could actually make a saving by moving to these newer products. These next-gen products are just more commercially competitive because Openreach have been cranking up the price of the old. Yeah. And there's nothing stopping them to kind of really ramp it up before 2025. We have kind of seen that in the last few months. And, you know, we have to pass that cost on, and so do other providers in this space. So it will probably, that legacy technology probably will become more and more expensive for you as time goes on. It's kind of like to incentivize people to move, but honestly, it's a pain as well, because we know everyone has to move. But yeah, it will make sense to move sooner.
Yeah. I mean, from my side of things, I completely echo what Sara says. There's nothing that we can expect costs to increase for legacy services. They're increasingly more expensive to run, and Openreach have an interest in getting us off those services. The other thing is, it's not just the cost of the services in pounds, shillings, and pence, is it? It's the cost of it not working. If you leave it to the last minute and you're at the back of the queue and you haven't got your services migrated. Just to give you a bit of an anecdote, this happened in Germany. They had a PSTN switch off in Germany a few years ago, and there were some organisations who didn't believe it was going to happen, and they lost services, and therefore they lost their ways of communicating to their customers because they didn't believe that the incumbent network was going to turn those services off. And so it really does happen. There's precedents for it in Europe, and you just don't want the reputation or the risk of doing it. Just do it early, please. So
the message is loud and clear. Avoid doing it last minute 2025. What most people are worried about, like you've just alluded to there, is disruption. So what about disruption from the sort of conversion from legacy to next generation? Will it require an engineer visit on most occasions? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, it is quite a disruptive process. You are changing technology at the end of the day. And it's hard for me to answer this question, honestly, without a shameless plug. There are providers out there who've really thought through that migration journey, who've thought through, you know, what happens if you really want to hold on to your phone number as you're moving technologies. What happens if, you know, you want to hold on to those devices, all of those small considerations that just build up. And there's some who haven't thought that through. So vendor selection becomes really important and critical for you. And for those, that have kind of thought this through, the aim is to minimize disruption, because businesses can't afford to lose a day whilst this change is happening. So whether that's technology or making sure that our processes are very slick and, minimize downtime, or giving you professional services that kind of basically take some of the headache away from you in terms of provisioning these services and setting these services up. So on all these three fronts, your vendor needs to really support you through this change.
And I'd absolutely second that as well. The most important bit of Sara's 4 points there, in my view, once you've got a, you're not going to be telecoms professionals and understand, what's on your bill end to end. And so talk to your suppliers about which of the services that you have, might need swapping over and how they would do it. So a big call out to talk to your suppliers. If you've got a supplier, look at the bill, give them a quick call and just try and understand whether you might have a card payment service, whether it's done from a SIM card, in which case there won't be any problem at all, or whether it's connected to a phone line, in which case you might need to find a replacement.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. I think you've answered this one already, but because someone sent it in, will this impact things like lifts, alarm lines, and CCTV?
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, done. Easy question. No, some of these services, and it's absolutely key when you're having these conversations with your suppliers to ask them questions about the replacement solution that they're offering, because you can't take for granted it will be the same services, right? So if you're talking about a lift and you're now moving to a mobile SIM-based solution, well, what happens? How do I make sure that I get signal throughout the lift? If you're using a service like telecare, make sure that there is a secondary power supply, because all of these technologies are well and good when you've got your broadband's working and your power's there. But if one of those two things go, stop working, then that service is gone. And at the end of the day, that could make the difference between life and death, right? So that process in that vendor selection, questioning them about what technology they're offering is going to be key.
Perfect. I'm really conscious of time, so we'll just leave it there for questions. Anything that we haven't had a chance to respond to, we'll send across to Sam and Sara, and we'll let you know the answers. So just quickly moving on forward, a quick reminder as to some of the benefits of using our framework. They're easy to use, free to access for the public sector, fully compliant, so the T's and C's are designed to protect you, the public sector, and you're going to get free and full support throughout the whole procurement journey. So the contact details are on screen for me and Rich. So our shared inbox is pscustomer-inquiries@csltd.org.uk, and our mobiles and emails are on screen now, and you can find us on LinkedIn. So we're really excited about next month. We're taking part in a big event, and Rich will tell you more.
Perfect. Yes, next month. So the webinar is going to be the 31st of August, 11 o'clock live, always live. And what we're doing, we will be spotlighting all of our emergency services framework in preparation for us, myself and MJ, attending the emergency show, which is being held at the NEC in Birmingham on September the 19th and the 20th. So come along and say hello and join us for a chat in person, have a coffee. We will be attending this event as an exhibitor, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. So the next webinar is about our emergency services frameworks in preparation for September, when we will be attending the NEC. So I think that's about it for now. Firstly, I'd love to thank Sara and Sam for their time. We really appreciate it, and I've definitely learned a lot more about it. It gives me a better insight into how I can help the public sector. I'm sure NJ will agree. Hopefully the viewers have found this interesting. If there's any subjects you'd like to approach going forward, please feel free to drop us a line, and we'd be more than happy to facilitate those conversations. So for myself, thank you so much for your time, And as always, over to MJ for the last words.
Yeah, I just want to quickly echo that. Really appreciate your time, Sam and Sara. It's been really useful for us. Hopefully the audience have found that useful for themselves. And yeah, we look forward to next month's edition. And please, if you are in the Birmingham area, come and join us, say hello. Rich will be signing autographs. You'll be glad to know. So yeah, thank you for your time today. And all that's left to be said is keep your finger on the pulse.
The Procurement Pulse. Goodbye.
Bye.